thank you for visiting with us, DeWayne. And just had a couple of questions for you. Let's see. I just would like to ask you who you are and what kind of a real estate investor are you?
I'm DeWayne Stiers, and I am a buy and hold guy. That's what I've done all my life, and it makes me money. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Okay. Well, how'd you get into real estate investing, DeWayne, and why?
I saw long-term money in it, and so I've always been doing some sort of it, piddling around one way or another. And then in '87, I was a student of Black Monday on the stock market, and I said, I'll never ever make a gamble like that again, because I can control everything that has to do with rentals, and there's no control on the stock market. Either you're lucky or not lucky, or somebody else is buying that stock and you just happen to be in it. So I just am very conservative in that respect. I just want to make money and secure my future is what I saw, and that's what we've done.
It makes total sense to me, and I'm there with you 100%, DeWayne, on stock market. I mean, it's to me, it's like I don't know, it's like rolling dice. You know, you just I don't have any control, and I can definitely understand that, and I think that's very helpful for a lot of people, new or even seasoned investors, to realize that. So,
yep,
I'm really glad you brought that up. What would you say, probably off the top of your head, would be the best real estate deal you think you've ever done, DeWayne?
Any of them that make money are best deals. It's I don't have one in the top of my head that's was a real wow, but because of the way I do my numbers, they're all good for me. And I don't look at them as trying to make a fortune, but their whole job is just to keep giving me money every month. And that's how I look at them. So what I pay for them is less important than what the return on investment is.
Wow, that's just really a good point, because I look at the long term more than I used to also. So, and I think it's important for a lot of people to know that, because a lot of people do get into this for the quick buck. And as you know, as we kind of find out as we go along, it's no such thing as get rich quick.
Yes, and with that in mind, I would suggest that anybody that's young, the quicker you get into this business and learn it and work it, the better your future will be. Because if you wait until you're 55 or 60, it's pretty hard to put it together and make you good money for retirement.
That's such a good point, because a lot of people do. I see that all the time, just like I'm sure you do too. People get into that a little bit later in life because all of a sudden they're a little closer to maybe retirement or whatever. And then it seems like a lot of us haven't had enough put away. And this is something, real estate can be a long-term solution for a lot of us. So
yes, and it's not that expensive to get into if you do it right. And I had one guy that came and he said, look, I got lots and lots of money and I want to have a lot of real estate so I can retire real well. And I said, okay, let's sit down and talk. And we did. And I said, so how much is lots of money? And he said, well, first of all, I'm going to send my son to Europe and it's going to cost me almost 200 or 100,000. So I have 200,000 now. So probably at least 100,000, but I could maybe get up to the 200. And I looked at him thinking, you don't have enough to even get involved this late in your life, But how do you tell a guy that, you've been thinking on your own? Yeah,
well, a lot of this stuff we have to learn from trial and error. I think it's so long. So that's such a great point. And like you said, though, I wish I would have got involved earlier in my life too. But I don't think there's ever a bad time. I think it's always good. So for whoever might be listening right now or watching, they get there's always some nuggets we could pick out from people like yourself that have been through some of this. And education, I think, is so important. I know you're a lifetime learner, I believe, like I am, and there's just always something out there that we can learn from people like yourself. What would you think maybe might have been maybe the worst real estate deal you think you've ever done, DeWayne?
I just finished it.
Uh-oh. Would you like to tell us about it?
What would you like to know?
Well, what made it the worst as far as what you see?
I've been in this business since the year that the country had its bicentennial. So in '76 to now, I've never lost money, and I lost money on a sale I just did. And the first mistake I made was trusting other people. Because the guy said, I have all of this stuff. I got teams, I got this, I got that, and I'd like to work with you and so maybe I can learn some more. So he painted a good picture. And I should have known, because one of my sayings is, if their lips are moving, they're lying to you.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, as soon as we bought it, COVID hit. He decided he didn't want to participate, him and his girlfriend. So they gave it to me, and I did not manage it properly. It's a long ways from home, and it was a long ways to go over and see the contractor and keep him under the reps. And it just went south from there. So after a couple of years, I had my first loss. And the people that around the clubs that tell you, if you haven't lost money, you're not in the business. That's not true. You don't have to lose money in this business. But if you're not educated or you don't have good people around you, you can lose money. But generally speaking, it's pretty forgiving, and you can get it back if you work it hard enough.
Yeah, you just brought up a good point there. The people you deal with is so important. It's not the people with the most money, but it's the people that actually, and you were talking about people on your team. It's people you can trust, and just they're honest with you in a lot of ways, because they don't always have to have the most money or the most knowledge, but they know you have to have a good intention, is what I found with a lot of them too.
Yes, that's true. And you brought up an interesting point, John, is on your team. People you take the classes, they tell you to go put this team together. To me, a team just develops around you. Mm-hmm. Because if you think you're going to go find an attorney that's going to come and sit down with you for no money, you're sadly mistaken. And anytime you ask for people for their time, you ought to remember that you probably ought to compensate them somehow with that.
That's such a good point, because a lot of people, especially new, try to get out there and they want to get all this stuff for free. Well, there's in my life, I haven't seen too much that was really for free, that didn't cost me more in the long run. So yeah, I think you do need to pay for stuff, and just, and see what you're getting for your money too, or for that. And your team is so important. I noticed, when I was building my team a few years ago, and it's constantly sometimes it's a turnover, because people do change in our lives. But I look at mindset, just people's intentions, and if they have an investor mindset. And I think you might do the same thing when we look for people you deal with.
Yes. And if I'm looking for a house and somebody says, I want to sell it, and I work with investors, I'll say, then, I know the questions to ask them. And when they don't have the answers and they say, well, you have to do your own numbers, that's just a nice way of saying, yeah, I want the commission, or I want whatever I'm getting out of it, and I don't care about you.
Wow, that's a great point. And I think everybody should make a note of that right there. That is just, that right there is a valuable nugget right there. So, well, DeWayne, if you were to start over today, what would you do differently, maybe, or if anything, that than when you first started?
Well, it took me a while before I finally developed what I call my master estimator. I would have got that put together earlier, because that's a key to getting started. But I would have looked for somebody that had been through the ropes, and their idea of teaching was in line with what I think. And then I would get educated, and it cost me some bucks to do that probably, but you can probably work out a deal with a person like that is in the business, that knows what to do, and will give you the straight skinny. Your hard part as a newbie is to figure out who that is, because there's a lot of salesmen out there that are saying, I got this class, I got that class. And you'd be surprised how many people say, well, I gave him $5,000 and he told me just to go to club meetings. Yeah, well, that's pretty darn exciting, but I don't think that's good value for money.
Oh, right. Such a good point, because there are a lot of people out there teaching stuff, and I know I've spent a lot of money over the years, and I know you have too. And some of the education is better than others. Would you say it would be valuable for someone to get involved with local groups to find out what's going on locally, as well as some of the other trainers?
No, I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And then just keep your ears open and listen. And remember, as long as the lips are moving and somebody's trying to get you to do something, everybody's going to be lying to you.
Yeah, that's a great point right there, because motivation, what is their motivation? Is it somebody trying to make a commission, or is they just selling something to you? They selling the property. I noticed a lot of the groups that I've seen and I've been members of, all they're trying to do is sell you, they call them off market properties. Well, there's a reason they're off market, because they
Yes,
can't put them on market. And some of the other groups out there, they just try to sell you, sell you programs. And there's nothing wrong with profit and buying programs. You just need to know what you're getting into. So education, I think, is huge. And
yes. And with what we're saying, what we're not, what we're both dancing around is the real truth is you need to develop personal relationships with people that are quality people that you would, work with, and you respect what they're doing or saying.
exactly. Yep.
And that's not just investors, that's the people who you deal with. And I'll tell you a short story.
Mhm.
The bank the one I just lost money on, I walked away with $30,000 check.
Mhm.
I mean, and I actually lost about 50,000 over that.
Mhm.
Okay. So that's not a good thing. So
Huh.
that's not recommending me at all.
Mhm.
But for the first time in my life, that's okay with me because I wanted out of it. I knew what I'd done wrong and I won't repeat that. But because I have relationships, when I went to the title company, they gave me my check. And they said, well, it's going to be a while before it funds. They call it funding so that the check's good.
Mhm.
So I said, well, just wire it to my bank and would you call me when it's done? Because I know them pretty well down there. They said, sure. So I got this note about 3 o'clock that says it's funded, it's paid, and the wire's been sent. So I said, okay, now my bank is going to hold a check that large or a fund that large, usually for up to 10 days.
Mhm.
So I walked in and saw the manager that I know because I have a relationship. I said, I need some help. He says, what do you need? And I said, they just wired 30,000 bucks into my account. And I need to get to that so I can get it over and pay on a line of credit that I have out right now.
Mhm.
And he says, let me look. And he goes, yep. Okay, I'll approve that. And so they wrote me a cashier's check. So now I have a cashier's check for 30,000. And I log on to the website, or I don't log on. I call the bank and I know the gal I deal with up there. And I said, I need some help if you can. And she says, what do you need? And I said, I have a $30,000 check and I'd like to put it in my checking account
Mhm.
and pay down on my line of credit to you. And she said, we can do that. So she said, when you're ready, just do it and I'll make sure that it comes through. So I logged on, and when I put it in, they said, it's above your limit. So I called her back and I said, hey, it won't let me put this in there. And she said, oh, I didn't get to that. Let me go get it. 5 minutes. I promise you, you do it in 5 minutes. We'll accept it. So now their limit's 10,000. So I know I'm asking probably a lot
Mhm.
to go out on a limb for me, but I have that relationship again.
Mhm.
And then 5 minutes later, I log on and there went the check.
Hmm.
So and then because it's a wire, they approve it right away and I could pay down on my line of credit, which saves me money
Mhm.
and in interest. So, and that was all based on having relationships. And I think relationships are very important and they go two directions.
Mhm. That's such a good point, because a lot of people, they kind of miss the boat, I think, on relationships, and it is give and take. You need, a lot of times I noticed in my life, I've been better off by giving first without expecting anything in return. But that's how you build your relationships a lot of times. And people will do things that they wouldn't necessarily do for other people. And I know personal relationships, just what you said right there, DeWayne, with the title company, the banks, and really those, you may not always consider them your team members, but they really are part of your team.
Yes, they are.
And that to me is just invaluable information right there, because that's, a lot of people just miss that. They look at numbers only. Numbers are fine, but that doesn't always make the deal go round. I've noticed some of the stuff that I've done, I maybe didn't make as much as I thought I could have or should have, turned out to be way better in the long run for just what the reasons you said right there. You could call them up and talk to the people because they know you and you got a personal relationship. So
Yes. And then when you call the head guy in a club or anywhere, he'll answer your phone, whereas the other ones, they let it go to voicemail.
Exactly. That's another really good point too, because we all get so many calls these days. I just had right before we got on here to talk to you, I just had an unsolicited call, actually two of them. I answered to one. I thought it was somebody else, and it was somebody just rambling on about a property, and she didn't really know anything about me, and that's fine, but it's not exactly what I was expecting. So I had to kind of, it's just, and if I would have known that, I wouldn't have answered. Not that I don't answer my phone, but that does happen. I'm much more
Yes.
likely to answer the phone for our personal relationship. So that's,
And you dropped a pearl of wisdom, as I call them, in your talking when you said, I will do something for somebody else without expecting anything back. And that is worth a lot, because if you expect, somebody's going to get their feelings hurt. So,
yes.
you do it with a good heart and then let it go.
Yep. Intentions that's, I'm a firm believer on just doing that with good intentions for everyone, because you don't know where a lot of people are at, and they don't always reciprocate, which is not what you're doing it for, but sometimes they just need a little boost sometimes too. So.
Oh yeah. And there's people that'll coach you, you got to do that, and it'll come back 100 times. No. I'm not going to it for that reason. I'm going to do the deal because it's a good deal for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Intentions is huge. That's such a great point.
Yeah, that was your pearl of wisdom, so take credit.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's great talking with you, DeWayne. I appreciate this. This is pearls of wisdom is what you've given us right here. This will help a lot of people, whether they're new or seasoned investors. I know a lot of times the seasoned investors, they need to unlearn some stuff and just listen sometimes. And a lot of times we don't open up our ears thinking we know a lot, but we need to talk to and listen to people like yourselves that have some experience and really know what they're talking about, and I appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up today?
Don't be in a big hurry, but one day you'll wake up and you go, where'd all that money come from?